Mao Zedong's life was a life of working thoroughly for the interests of the people. Mao Zedong's people's heart is reflected in his thinking on the theory of origin, history, values, and methodology of the Communist Party of China. The Chinese Communist Party was established because of the needs of the people, which is Mao Zedong's theory of the origin of the Chinese Communist Party. The people are the creators of history, and the Chinese Communist Party takes root among the people, becomes the place where the strength of the Chinese Communist Party lies, and where the enemy fears the Chinese Communist Party. This is Mao Zedong's view of history. Serving the people is the most honorable and greatest. For the cause of the people, sacrifice is so ambitious. For the disasters encountered by the people, he cried 3 times. Whether the people support him or not depends on whether the people fall behind on the day of the memorial service tears. This is Mao Zedong's values. To come from the masses to the masses, to worship the people as teachers, and to absorb knowledge, wisdom, and strength from the masses is Mao Zedong's methodology. Mao Zedong once said in Serving the People that the Communist Party and the revolutionary team led by the Communist Party work thoroughly for the interests of the people. 1. p.1004, Mao Zedong's life was a life of working thoroughly for the interests of the people. The 2 most frequently written characters in Mao Zedong's calligraphy works are people. The new China established by Mao Zedong as the main founder is called People's Republic of China, its government is called People's Government, its army is called People's Liberation Army, its courts are called People's Courts, its procuratorate is called People's Procuratorate, and its broadcasting the radio station is called People's Broadcasting Station, its central level newspaper is called People's Daily, its currency is called RMB, and its central level bank is called People's Bank of China. Mao Zedong is the most influential and can best reflect his original intention, and the inscription of the pursuit is Serve the People. There has been a people-oriented ideological tradition in Chinese history. Shang Shi respectively records the thoughts of Gao Tao's safety for the people, Pan Geng's respect for the people, and Duke Zhou's protection of the people. In the spring and autumn period, Guanzi said, "What government does is to follow the people's will, what is abolished by government is to go against the people's will." Chapter 49, Confucius emphasizes, people, food, funeral, sacrifice. The Analects of Confucius Yeu, Mencius was an outstanding representative of the people-oriented theory during the Warring States period. He put forward the famous theory of the people are more important than the emperor and clarified that those who win the hearts of the people win the world. Joy, those who worry about the people's worries, the people also worry about their worries. Joy to the world, worry about the world, but there is no king, and there is no such thing. Mencius under King Hui of Liang. Mao Zedong combined the basic principles of Marxism with the specific reality of China's revolution and construction, and with the people-oriented ideological tradition in Chinese history, forming Mao Zedong's most distinctive and far-reaching influence of serving the people. People's heart mainly includes 4 parts: the theory of the origin of the Communist Party of China, the view of history, values, and methodology. 1. The Communist Party was established only when the people needed it. On July 9, 1949, Mao Zedong said the following in his speech to all representatives of the National Railway Workers' Temporary Representative Conference and the National Machinery Affairs Conference, and some staff members of the Ministry of Railways, the Railway Corps, and the Pingjin Railway Administration. Comrades, you all know that 22 years ago we had nothing, and 28 years ago we didn't even have the Communist Party. Why do things exist today that were not there before? It is because the people need them. When I was a primary school teacher, just relying on teaching for a living, did not think of building a communist party. The Communist Party was established because of the needs of the people. 2. Pages 305-306. Mao Zedong's passage discusses the origin of the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party was established because of the needs of the people. Since the invasion of imperialism, huge war reparations have been paid to the Chinese people time and time again. The financial burden of the Chinese people is heavier than before, life is poorer and more difficult than before, and fewer people go to school than before. China has become a poor and white country, and the Chinese people have become a poor and white people. Under the actual rule of imperialism, Mao Zedong experienced the poor of the Chinese people since he was a child. The young Mao Zedong saw many people begging in the countryside because of lack of food, and he also saw people rioting due to famine. The country is based on the people, and the people depend on food. From his youth, Mao Zedong believed that a society in which the people had no food to eat must be transformed. After the baptism of the May 4th movement, his understanding became clearer, and he bluntly said, What is the biggest problem in the world? The biggest problem is eating. A few people enjoy a good life, but tens of millions of people will cry. Society, 3, pages 270-295, is undesirable. Under the actual rule of imperialism, Mao Zedong experienced the whiteness of the Chinese people since he was a child. He once said to Snow, "My father has been in school for 2 years, and he knows enough characters to keep accounts. My mother is completely illiterate. Both of them came from peasant families. I am a scholar in the family." 4. P.8. Even if Mao Shenzhen's family owns 15 mu of land, it's not surprising that the poor peasants with no land to stand on can't get enough to eat, and the whole family is illiterate. For thousands of years, the Chinese nation has always attached great importance to farming, reading and heirloom. Under the oppression of feudalism and imperialism, the cultivators did not have enough to eat, and fewer people studied. Mao Zedong pointed out in the investigation report on the peasant movement in Hunan, 90% of the people in China are uneducated, and the majority of them are peasants. 5. P.39. The Chinese people urgently need to change their poor conditions, so they must overthrow the two mountains of imperialism and feudalism that are oppressing the Chinese people. The history of China for nearly 100 years since the Opium War has proved that the reformers of the landlord class used the ideological weapons of the feudal society to learn from the barbarians to control the barbarians, and it was impossible to overthrow the oppression of imperialism. There is no way to overthrow imperialist oppression. Can the bourgeois reformists or bourgeois revolutionaries overthrow imperialist oppression in China? The reform movement of 1898 and the revolution of 1911 failed to prove that it was not good either. As Mao Zedong pointed out, in the West, it is the bourgeoisie that takes the lead in building a democratic country. But in a semi-colonial country, the bourgeoisie is weak. They lack the necessary vitality, so they cannot undertake this task. 6. P.118. The urgent need of the Chinese people to overthrow the oppression of imperialism and feudalism and change their poverty gave birth to the Communist Party of China. The theoretical weapon that gave birth to the Chinese Communist Party and promoted its growth is not the theoretical weapon of the Chinese feudal landlord class, nor the theoretical weapon of the Western bourgeoisie, but the theoretical weapon of the world proletariat, that is, scientific, people's and practical Marxism. The class force that gave birth to the Chinese Communist Party and made it grow is the Chinese proletariat. The Chinese proletariat was born earlier than the Chinese bourgeoisie, is the representative of China's advanced productive forces, and has a natural close relationship with the vast Chinese peasant class. The Chinese communists who were born on such a theoretical and class basis are models of seeking truth from facts, models of farsightedness, and models of subordinating personal interests to the interests of the nation and the people with a spirit of sacrifice. The Communist Party of China is a political leader who is trusted by the majority of the people and has been tested by the people over a long period of time. 5. P.185. China is the most populous country in the world. Why do imperialists defeat China again and again, and even Japan, which is much smaller than China, dares to bully China? In addition to the lack of industrialization and backward economic technology, another more important reason is the corruption of China's feudal system. There is no democracy, and the Chinese people are in a state of disunity. Mao Zedong said, "Without organization, there is no power." Japan has a small population and China has a large population, but it can bully us because our vast number of people are not well organized. 7. P.117. The Chinese Communist Party is what came into being in response to the call of the people, and the nation is a political leader who can unite and organize the Chinese people and end the state of disunity. Mao Zedong pointed out, the people rely on us to organize. The Chinese reactionaries rely on us to organize the people to overthrow them. 8. P.1131. The Communist Party of China was born in response to the needs of the people, especially the need to organize the people. Chinese communists must think about and do the great things of national liberation and people's happiness every day, instead of thinking about and doing personal private affairs every day, and must submit their personal interests to the interests of the nation and the people. Mao Zedong is the main founder of the Communist Party of China, and the creator who thinks about and does great things about national liberation and people's happiness every day. This is what Mao Zedong wanted to do when he initiated the establishment of the Zinmin Society. He said to Snow, "This society has had a wide-ranging impact on China's affairs and destiny in the future. They are not many in number, but they are all very serious people who don't bother to talk about trivial matters. Ordinary things also refuse to talk about. I remember one time when I went to a young man's home, he told me that he wanted to buy some meat, and he called his servant in my presence, and talked with the servant about buying meat, and then tell him to buy it. I am so annoyed that I will never see this fellow again. My friends and I are only happy to talk about big things: the nature of man, the nature of human society, the nature of China, the world, the universe. Xinmin Society. Several members later became more well-known communists. 4. Pages 28-29, at the 7th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, Mao Zedong once again warned the Communist Party members, when our comrades meet, don't just talk about how life is like, and don't make life issues the main topic. Our brains need to think more, think about various problems within the party, think about class problems, think about the country's problems, think about the problems of our nation. 9. p.204. 2. The people are the creators of history. In July 1949, when Mao Zedong reviewed the history since the establishment of the Communist Party of China, he specifically said that we had nothing 22 years ago. 2. p. The People's Army led by the party has not yet found a way to encircle the cities from the countryside and seize power with armed forces, and has no strength to fight against imperialism and feudalism. In the first 6 years, Mao Zedong was the first to see the importance of the party organizing the people to carry out armed struggle. He first saw that China was not an independent democratic country, but a semi-colonial and semi-feudal country. Internally there was no democratic system, but was oppressed by the feudal system. Externally, there was no national independence, but was oppressed by imperialism. Therefore, there is no parliament that can use it, and no organized workers have the legal right to strike. The only way is to organize peasants to carry out armed struggles to encircle the cities from the countryside. This road was opened by the troops of the Autumn Harvest Uprising led by Mao Zedong in the autumn of 1927 to Jinggangshan. On this road, relying on the support of the people, our party has strength. Mao Zedong said affectionately, in the past we had nothing, but now we have everything. Don't we all rely on the masses? Pages 306, 307. The one who wins the hearts of the people wins the world, and the one who loses the hearts of the people loses the world. This is an inevitable law of historical development. Mao Zedong believed that the masses of the people are the strength of the party, and only with the support of the masses can the party exist and develop. During the Agrarian Revolutionary War, Mao Zedong pointed out, the Revolutionary War is a war of the masses. Only by mobilizing the masses can a war be waged, and only by relying on the masses can a war be waged. The masses. This is the real iron wall, which cannot be broken by any force, absolutely indestructible. The counter-revolution cannot break us, but we must break the counter-revolution. How can we get the support of the masses? Mao Zedong pointed out that we must pay attention to economic work, we must care about the lives of the masses and pay attention to working methods. He said, we want to develop the people's economy day by day, greatly improve the lives of the masses, greatly increase our fiscal revenue, and establish a solid material foundation for revolutionary war and economic construction. 5. Pages 136, 139, 122. Mao Zedong made an in-depth analysis of the relationship between the Red Army's fighting and mass work. Essentially speaking, the Red Army's wars are not just for the sake of fighting, but for the purpose of propagating the masses, organizing the masses, arming the masses, and helping the masses build a revolutionary regime. And the establishment of a revolutionary regime, that means losing the meaning of fighting, that is, losing the meaning of the existence of the Red Army. From the perspective of quantitative comparison, the time spent on fighting and the time allocated to mass work is a ratio of 1 to 10. 10. Pages 79, 57. During the War of Resistance against Japan, Mao Zedong emphasized mobilizing the people of the whole country to implement a comprehensive line of resistance against Japan and opposed a one-sided line of resistance against the people. He pointed out in his famous On Protracted War, the mobilization of the people of the whole country has created a vast ocean in which the enemy will be wiped out, created the remedial conditions to make up for the shortcomings of weapons and so on, and created the conditions to overcome all difficulties in war. Premise. 11. p.480. If the unorganized state of the Chinese people is overcome, put the Japanese aggressor in front of tens of millions of our people who have stood up, and make it rush into the fire like a bison, we have to frighten it by shouting, and this bison must be burned to death. 11. Pages 511-512. he drew an inspiring conclusion by expounding the relationship between the army and the people. The army must be one with the people, so that the army can be regarded as its own army in the eyes of the people. It is invincible in the world, and Japanese imperialism is not enough to fight. 11. p.512, he emphasized again on New Democracy, whose power is the resistance to Japan? Without the workers, the peasants, and other petty bourgeoisie, you can't take a single step. 11. p.682, at the 7th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, Mao Zedong had a well-known saying, "The people, and only the people, are the driving force for creating world history." 1. p.1031, starting from the fact that China's vast population is in the countryside, 4 out of 5 people are peasants, he determined that the war of resistance against Japan was a peasants' war, and warned the whole party, "Don't regard farmers as forget these 2 words, even reading a million volumes of Marxist books is useless, because you have no strength." 9. Pages 106-107. During the War of Liberation, relying on the support of the United States, Chiang Kai-shek overestimated the power of the Kuomintang and underestimated the power of the people led by the Communist Party of China. Mao Zedong firmly believed that China's affairs must be run by the Communist Party and the people. When the masses are united, everything will be easy. He pointed out, "We communists are like seeds, and the people are like land. When we reach a place, we must unite with the people there, take root and blossom among the people." 8. Pages 1162-1318, the Chinese Communist Party takes root among the people, which is where the strength of the Chinese Communist Party lies, and where the enemy fears the Chinese Communist Party. Mao Zedong said, Bai Kongzi often said, "Don't be afraid of the Communist Party's evil, only afraid of the Communist Party's rooting." He was right. All forces were mobilized to win the War of Liberation. Mao Zedong ruthlessly exposed and criticized the idealist view of history that advocated the theory of genius and heroes creating history. At the end of the 1950s, when Mao Zedong read the Soviet Union's textbook of political economy, he criticized the textbook's statement that mass struggle was only one of the important conditions. In any case, it cannot be considered that history is created by planners, not by the masses. 12. p.157, in the 1960s, Mao Zedong wrote his Inyun Reading History, which outlined his understanding of human history with poetry. "Man and ape bow to each other, only a few stones have been ground, children season. Turning the flames in the copper and iron furnace, I guess when I can guess, but it is only a few thousand cold and hot. It is rare in this world to smile and bow to each other on the battlefield. Blood is flowing all over the suburbs. After reading an article, it is blowing snow, but I remember spots and traces. The sacred things of the 5 emperors and 3 emperors have deceived the passers-by. How many romantic figures are there?" In the 1970s, Mao Zedong severely criticized the heroic view of history in Lushan, pointing out, "International lyrics and Lenin's articles are all Marxist positions and viewpoints. What is said there is that the slaves have always risen to fight for the truth. There is no savior, nor do we rely on immortal emperors, but we all rely on ourselves to save ourselves. Whoever created the human world is our working people." 13. p.248, Mao Zedong denied the idealistic view of history that heroes create history, but he did not deny the existence of heroes. There are so many beautiful mountains and rivers that attract countless heroes to bow down. He has repeatedly quoted, "The world is the same in time, and the heroes are not free when transported away," which shows that the heroes in his eyes conform to the current situation and the requirements of the people, and then give full play to their personal characteristics. There are no heroes without the current situation and the people. 3. Serving the people is the most glorious and great. Mao Zedong said at Zhang Sai's memorial service, "Our Communist Party and the 8th Route Army and new 4th Army led by the Communist Party are revolutionary teams. Our team is completely for the liberation of the people and works for the interests of the people. A person is inherently mortal, and he is heavier than Mount Tai, or lighter than a feather. To die for the interests of the people is heavier than Mount Tai. To work hard for fascism, to die for those who exploit and oppress the people, is lighter than a feather. Comrade Zhang Sai, he died for the benefit of the people, and his death is heavier than Mount Tai. Where there is struggle, there will be sacrifices, and dead people often happen. But we think of the interests of the people and the pain of the majority of the people. When we die for the people, we die well." 1. Pages 1004-1005. In Mao Zedong's mind, the people are the sky, and this is the only thing that is great, the people are the earth, and this is the only thing that is the foundation, serving the people is the most glorious and greatest thing. Mao Zedong endured the pain of broken heart and left his confidant wife to start a revolution and go to the mountains to engage in armed struggle, because people are sick and need to solve the sickness of the people oppressed by imperialism and feudalism. In the struggle to liberate the people and defend national independence, Mao Zedong's 6 relatives died, which can be described as a family of loyalty. Mao Zedong once said to Gu Bo's wife, Zhen Bai, there is always a sacrifice in revolution. I have participated in the revolution for decades, and my parents are long gone. My elder brother Mao Zemin and younger brother Mao Zedong both sacrificed for the revolution. One of Mao Zedong's sons died for the revolution. He was buried alive by the enemy at the age of 18. Yang Kaihui also sacrificed for the revolution, and Xiao Mao, referring to Chairman Mao's son who was left in Jiangxi, was never found. For the revolutionary cause, our family also paid a great price. We cannot grow old. Think about your own affairs, my son. You should think more about the liberation of the people of the whole country, and think more about the revolutionary cause we have carried out. 14. p.431, Put the people's affairs above our own affairs. This is Mao Zedong's loyalty to the people. Mao Zedong worried about the people's worries, and rejoiced in the people's happiness. After the founding of New China, Mao Zedong cried 3 times for the disasters encountered by the people. The first time was in the early days of New China, when the Huihe River flooded and the disaster was severe. Mao Zedong learned from the telegram that many of the villages were submerged, and many victims fled to the trees with the snakes, and some people were bitten to death by poisonous snakes. He was so sad that he cried. Mao Zedong successively wrote 4 letters of instruction to Zhou Enlai on the telegram on the Huihe River flood and the situation of Huihe River governance. The Huihe River became the first river to be treated on a large scale after the founding of New China. The second time is the difficult life of the people during the 3 years of severe difficulties. According to the memory of Li Yinqiao, the head of the guard, Mao Zedong kept sending guards down to understand the situation. One day, a guard brought a black and hard cornbread mixed with a lot of chaff and said, "This is what the folks eat." Mao Zedong stared at the cornbow blankly, his brows furrowed. I saw that his hands were shaking when he took the cornbread, and he took a lot of effort to break off a piece and put it in his mouth. The old man chewed, and shed tears. While weeping, Mao Zedong broke open the cornbread and distributed it to several guards. "Eat, you all eat, you all have to eat, eat, this is the ration of farmers, the ration of people who grow food." He ate and ate. He was so choked up that he couldn't even speak. From that day on, Mao Zedong hadn't eaten a single bite of pork for 7 months. 14. Pages 450-451, It is precisely because the Chinese Communists, mainly represented by Comrade Mao Zedong, shared will and woe with the people that the national economy was adjusted smoothly and the period of severe economic difficulties was overcome. The third time was in July 1976, when the Tangshan earthquake caused a large number of casualties and heavy losses. Mao Zedong, who was seriously ill at the time, lived on nasal feeding. According to Wang Xinda, a member of the medical team next to him, recalled, when the secretary reported the extremely heavy losses caused by the earthquake, the chairman cried. It was the first time I saw the chairman cry in person. 15. p.1783, This catastrophe, Mao Zedong sent Hua Qiuben to the disaster-stricken area to condolences, pooled the strength of the whole country for rescue and relief, and minimized the losses caused by the earthquake. Mao Zedong regarded the problems of the masses as the center of all problems and the key to all politics. He pointed out that Communist Party members, especially party cadres, should not become officials and masters and be divorced from the masses. Dedicate yourself to death and die. 16. p.339, Are there any objective criteria for keeping close contact with the people? He said yes. For example, when a person dies and holds a memorial service, how the masses respond is a criterion for measuring. Some people are high above, have a high position, and call themselves chiefs. It seems that the common people support him. In fact, this does not explain the problem. It depends on the conclusion of the final coffin and whether the people shed tears on the day of the memorial service. Some cadres died, but I don't think the people will cry. He is a self-appointed leader of the masses. Because you became an official, the people have to fight when dealing with you. In fact, as soon as the official business is done, people turn around and leave, ignoring you. 16. p.60, After the death of Comrade Luz Haydn, The people in northern Shaanxi were very sad, which shows that he is a real member of the masses. Leader. 16. p.60, He Jianian recalled an incident with Mao Zedong. In 1939, He Jianian served as the commander of Dongbian, Dingbian, and Jingbian garrison areas. Raining heavily, and I rushed to a fellow villager's house and asked to stay. The fellow insisted on not letting me stay, and I only let me stay after talking about it. When He Jianian reported this incident to Mao Zedong said kindly, "In my opinion, this is a good thing. If an ordinary citizen dares not let you, the commander, live, it means that you are the people's army. If you, the commander of the Kuomintang army, is here, how dare the common people refuse to let you live? Only when the common people regard you as their own army and unite with you can you win the battle. What a wonderful thing this is." 14. p.171, These words gave He Jianian a profound education. Only when the Communist Party and the People's Army led by the Communist Party serve the people and are united with the people are they invincible in the world. Serving the people means serving the vast majority of people. When Mao Zedong moved to war in 1947, his inscription to the Jia County Party Committee was standing on the side of the majority of working people. Mao Zedong's focus on safeguarding the interests of peasants and national industrialists and businessmen started from serving the vast majority of people. Serving the vast majority of people is the purpose and the source of strength. Only when the vast majority of people support the Communist Party can the Communist Party run China's affairs well. The most important things that ordinary people think about are two things: one is what is lacking in food, and the other is what is in need of disease. To serve the people and let the people live a good life, we must first solve the problem of food for the common people and the problems of disease prevention and treatment. During the Revolutionary War, Mao Zedong believed that we should not only ask the people for food and taxes, but do not know how to do the other side of the job, which is to use all our strength to help the people develop production and improve culture. 7. p.467, he proposed, 90% of the energy should be used to help farmers increase production, and then 10% of the energy should be used to obtain taxes from farmers. It took hard work for the former, but it was easy for the latter. It is wrong to pay no attention to organizing the vast labor force of the party, government, army, and people to carry out mass production movements, and to only pay one-sided attention to the view that a small number of government personnel are busy collecting grain, taxation, money, and food. 1. Pages 911-912, During the Revolutionary War, Mao Zedong proposed that we should actively prevent and treat people's diseases and promote people's medical and health services. 1. p.1083. After the founding of New China, Mao Zedong always regarded solving the food problem of the people as his top priority. Although the industrialization and modernization under the conditions of poverty had to focus on agriculture, and had to adopt the method of unified purchase and marketing of grain, Mao Zedong always attached importance to the development of industry on the basis of agricultural development. He told the local cotters, "Chinese characters are very reasonable. If the character for rice lacks food, the word anti is left. If the common people have no food to eat, they will rise up and rebel. The people take food as their heaven. Agriculture is the foundation of the national economy, and food is the foundation of the foundation. The people have food to eat and clothes to wear, and things are easy to manage." 15. Pages 1559-1560, In order to develop agriculture, especially grain production, Mao Zedong paid special attention to water conservancy work, and issued strategic calls for river governance one after another. In order to solve the problem of disease prevention and treatment, Mao Zedong proposed in 1951, sanitary, epidemic prevention and general medical work must be regarded as a major political task, and this work should be vigorously developed. 17. p.176, On harm. Mao Zedong paid great attention to schistosomiasis, which is a great cause of people's lives. With the concerted efforts of the people of the whole country, the prevention and control of schistosomiasis finally achieved remarkable results in June 1958. When Mao Zedong heard the good news of eradicating schistosomiasis in Yujiang County, he couldn't sleep at night, so he happily wrote 2 poems of 7 laws sending the plague god. The first poem describes the miserable situation in the past: green waters and green mountains are in vain, Huatuo is helpless. Thousands of villages leave arrows, thousands of households Xiaoshi ghosts sing. Sitting on the ground, travel 80,000 miles a day, survey the sky and watch 1,000 rivers in the distance. The cowherd wants to ask about the god of plague, and the same joys and sorrows are passing away. The second poem praises the grand scene of eradicating schistosomiasis. There are thousands of willows in the spring breeze, and the 600 million Shenzhou is full of Shenyeo. It turns into a bridge. The sky connects with the 5 mountains and the silver hose fall, and the earth shakes the 3 rivers with iron arms. Ask the Plague King where he wants to go, and the paper boat burns in the sky. Worrying about the worries of the people and rejoicing in the joy of the people, this is to serve the people. Mao Zedong, who is proud, takes the heart of the people as his heart, and is loyal to the people. 4. From the masses to the masses. Mao Zedong's people's heart not only includes all for the people and all relying on the people, but also includes the thinking method, leadership method, and working method of coming from the people to the people. The author believes that the method of coming from the masses to the masses is inseparable from Mao Zedong's application of dialectical materialist epistemology to practical work, and is also closely related to Mao Zedong's application of materialist dialectics to practical work. 18. It is also closely related to Mao Zedong's application of historical materialism in the party's political line and work line is closely related. The epistemological basis of the method of mass leader mass is practice, knowledge, practice. Mao Zedong pointed out in On Practice, practice, understanding, repractice, and re-recognition. This form repeats endlessly, and the content of each cycle of practice and understanding has relatively advanced to a higher level. 5. Pages 296-297, the dialectical basis of the method of mass leadership. Mass is individual, general, individual, or special, universal, special. Generally exist in the individual. Without individuality, there is no commonality. Individuality is connected with commonality, and there is no individuality that is absolutely isolated. Mao Zedong pointed out in On Contradiction, this principle of universality and individuality and absolute relativeness is the essence of the problem of contradictions in things. If you don't understand it, you will abandon dialectics. 5. p.320. Mao Zedong discussed the methods of combining the general with the individual and combining the leadership with the masses in several issues concerning leadership methods, and pointed out, in all practical work of our party, any correct leadership must come from the masses, go to the masses. That is to say, gather the opinions of the masses, scattered and unsystematic opinions, after research, turn them into centralized and systematic opinions, and then go to the masses to make propaganda and explanations, turn it into the opinions of the masses, make the masses stick to it, see it in action, and test whether these opinions are correct in the mass action. Then gather from the masses, and then go to the masses to persist. This is an infinite cycle. Time after time it is more correct, more vivid, and richer. This is the epistemology of Marxism. He believes, collect from the masses and persist in the masses to form correct leadership opinions. This is the basic leadership method. He proposed, form a general opinion, general call, from many individual guidances, and take this general opinion to many individual units to test. Not only do this yourself, but also tell others to do the same, and then gather new experience, summarize experience, and make new instructions to guide the masses generally. 1. Pages 899, 900. From the masses to the masses reflects the position, viewpoint, and method of historical materialism in terms of knowledge and wisdom. The masses are the real heroes, but we ourselves are often naive and ridiculous. If you don't understand this, you can't get the basic knowledge. 1. p.790, Mao Zedong's famous saying clarifies that the masses of the people are not only the strength of the party, the source of the party is also the source of the party's wisdom. Mao Zedong believed that only by being willing to be a primary school student among the masses of the people can we learn the knowledge and wisdom of the masses. Therefore, he proposed, learning from the masses with all comrades in the party and continuing to be a primary school student is my wish. 1. Pages 791-792, Mao Zedong was resourceful. Chen Yun said in Westward Journey with the Army, in the Red Army, Mao Zedong was known as Zhuge Liang. 19. p.64, Mao Zedong believed that the masses of the people were Zhuge Liang. Among the Chinese people, there are actually tens of thousands of every village, every town has its Zhuge Liang. We should go among the masses and learn from them. 1. p.933. At the 7th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, Mao Zedong repeatedly said that he should learn from the masses. He said, if you want to talk about farming, you are not as good as Wu Manyu. If you want to talk about workmanship, you are not as good as Zhao Zhangkui, and if you want to talk about being a soldier, you are not as good as Zhang Zhiguo. We can only do one or two things for tens of millions of things. There is a limit, we don't know how there are a lot of things to do. 9. p.151, he also said, we have to learn many things from the common people. Our knowledge is very poor. First of all, my knowledge is very poor. I am not very good at how to transport salt. Now, what about cooperatives? I'm not old anymore, and I've never run a cooperative before. So I put forward a task for us, which is to learn. 9. p.152, he also introduced his approach to the Congress delegates. When I am helpless, I ask my comrades and ordinary people. It is the same in war. 9. p.204, where did Mao Zedong's outstanding wisdom, extraordinary strategic ability, and admirable level of Marxist theory come from? After the founding of New China, the former KMT General Zheng Dongguo once raised this issue with Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong's answer was worship the people as teachers, and this will work. On August 29, 1964, when Mao Zedong met with the Nepalese education delegation, the foreign guests asked, what is the secret of your greatness? Mao Zedong said, I am not great, I just learned a little knowledge from ordinary people. Learn knowledge from the masses, formulate policies, and then educate the masses. Therefore, if you want to be a teacher, you must first be a student. 20. p.401, to worship the people as teachers and learn from the people, we must improve the people's cultural level, knowledge level, and overall quality. Facing the national conditions of 1 poor and 2 white, we should not only pay attention to solving the problem of poor, but also pay attention to solving the problem of white. During the Revolutionary War, Mao Zedong attached great importance to continuously improving the cultural level of the People's Army and the people. He pointed out, an army without culture is a stupid army, and a stupid army cannot defeat the enemy. We must tell the masses to rise up and fight against their own illiteracy, superstition, and unhygienic habits. 1. p.1011, the photo of Mao Zedong teaching two little Balu to read on his palm has attracted the attention of many people. Literacy is the starting point of culture. Mao Zedong wrote in the preface to the cultural textbook edited by Kai Feng, Su Tili, and Fan Wenlin, without this foundation, it means that you can't read, and write, and your social and natural common sense is limited to the scope of direct experience. Although such a person can do some work, it is impossible to do it well. Although he can learn some revolutionary principles, it is impossible to learn it well. 7. p.387, many cotters, soldiers, and people began to improve their cultural, theoretical, and various skills step by step through literacy classes and night schools. Mao Zedong was delighted to see, the great and victorious Chinese People's War of Liberation and the Great People's Revolution have revived and are revitalizing the culture of the great Chinese people. 8. p.1516, after the founding of New China, Mao Zedong always attached equal importance to economic construction and cultural construction, and regarded them as two wheels of a car. At the first meeting of the first session of the National People's Congress, he called for struggling to build a great socialist country which included the goal of cultural construction, that is, to build a country that is economically and culturally backward like ours into a highly industrialized country. A country with a modern level of literacy. 17. p.350, after the goal of industrialization was changed to the goal of modernization, Mao Zedong included the modernization of science and culture, and always attached great importance to cultural development from a strategic height. At the beginning of the founding of New China, 80% of the country's 550 million population were illiterate. The Communist Party of China and the Central People's Government are determined to carry out mass eradication of illiteracy. From 1949 to 1969, 4 campaigns to eliminate illiteracy were carried out. The simplification of Chinese characters has also greatly contributed to the literacy campaign. Many families with illiterate parents have junior high school students, and even college students. The cultural and educational undertakings of Mao Zedong's era laid an important foundation for the great development of New China. By 2000, China's illiteracy rate had dropped to 6.72%. What a remarkable change.